My name is Houmed Arjomand and I work for Gluckstein Design. I'm an interior designer and I've been working for Gluckstein for 5 years now. When I first moved into this space, it was essentially a blank canvas. Even though the square footage is about between 600 to 650 square feet is very small, I saw the potential to be able to mold the space into something that would work for me and my lifestyle. When you walk in, you first see that I have a little dining space. I have a little black table, which is actually a library table I found in an outdoor antique market. It was originally walnut. I bought it and painted it and had a little bit of fun with it. And I paired it with a little antique settee that I found at an antique store and 2 Louis XVI chairs, which I bought at an estate sale. So I wanted it to have a collected feel and not the feeling that I had gone out and purchased, a match set dining room suite, as most people do. I wanted to bring some interest to the walls, so I actually painted that wall one shade darker than the rest of the room, and I did the 2 large Victorian prints. The living area is laid out in a way that I can entertain. I like to be able to have intimate conversations with friends that come to visit. They don't realize that the furniture is of a scale that works in a small space. I don't have anything that's too cumbersome or large. My sofa is only about 2 feet deep, whereas a regular sofa is between 3.5 feet in depth. I really love the settee. I fell in love with it at a local auction house, and it had this hideous floral fabric on it, so I bought it for a ridiculously low amount. I ripped off the fabric, restyled it, and added a seat cushion for comfort, and voila, there it is in my living room. And I did add panel molding to the living space. What I love the most about my living area are my 2 Japanese screens. It's actually one large screen, and unfortunately I was not able to display it as one continuous 6-panel screen, so I decided to separate it into 3 different parts. So I have 2 panels behind each of my side tables in my living space, and then I have the other 2 just propped up against the wall in my bedroom. The reason why these screens are so special to me is that the stonework on it is all done by hand, semi-precious stones. Another feature which I personally love in my space is my art wall. You'd think that creating an art wall like this is a difficult thing to do. Actually, it was quite simple. Essentially, all it took was buying some chain, a few hooks that you use to hang a chandelier from, and a thin drapery rod, and it was done. This gives me the flexibility to be able to take down a painting and change it based on season, based on my mood, based on whatever my accent color that I have at any time. So in my living room, when I first moved in, I noticed that there was a little nook. The previous owner was using that nook essentially as his cat's little home. Seeing as I had no pets, I decided to change that into a very tiny but functional office space for myself. I just put up some shelves and did a little upholstered work surface, and I used my desktop computer at that spot. In my small space, I wanted to have a little sense of formality. So what I decided to do was take a little ante-room, and I decided to paint that wall a dark chocolate brown, and I placed a little console table with some books and artwork. And I hung a 17th century portrait, which has since become a conversation piece for everyone that comes into my space. So moving on into the bedroom, I wanted to give the bedroom its own feel and make it a unique space. So I decided in my bedroom to paint my walls a midnight blue. I put a dresser in the window. I was lucky that it's almost like a bay window, and I found an old dresser that I painted and was able to place in that spot. My bedside tables are mismatched in style and in size. I decided to purchase one that was a bit smaller due to constraints of space, but I think aesthetically it works quite nicely. And then again, due to restrictions of space, I store a lot of my unused artwork on the floor of my master bedroom. I think it brings some interest to the room. Having had purchased this as a junior designer, I was working on a budget essentially for decorating of my entire home. So one space that I had to live with as is was my kitchen. So to be able to bring a little bit of character and tie it in with the rest of my house, I decided to put up a black chinoiserie wallpaper. And I think that's really all it took to be able to give it that little bit of punch. When I moved into this condo, essentially my doors were just flat veneer doors. So I decided to add panel molding, and I was inspired by my Japanese screens to hand paint on each door a unique Japanese motif in a gold finish. So my rule for a small space that I tried to implement in decorating my own home was to keep pattern to minimal, as well as color. I mean, I do have a shot of the orange, which is prevalent throughout my whole suite, but other than that, all my colors are somewhat monochromatic, and my textiles are all more textural than pattern. And I think that helps in mixing a variety of different styles and periods of furniture together to keep it unified and not create an overwhelming aesthetic that is unpleasing to the eye.